Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Reaction Time, courtesy of our friend at Fairway. Today, Ben and I have a special guest, Kyven Gadson. Thank you for joining us.
Yo, thank you for reaching out. I'm glad to be here.
You're a hot commodity. I asked everyone on Twitter what they would like to see from Ben and I since we're in that weird, limbo period of before we head back into dual action, and your name got brought up a lot. So
Oh, that's awesome. The people know.
Yeah.
I used to be the people's champ, So it was good time. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share my side and stuff like that. So my perspective. So
yeah.
Thank you,
People's
guys.
champ and national champ. So
yeah, it was a good
Honored to
good
have you.
times. And I brought ice cream to my job the other day, and so I'm really popular at work right now.
there
so,
you go.
Just the little things.
Just a man of the people.
Some days.
So how are you? How are things going? I mean, you're working at the foundation now. What's life looking like these days?
Life's good. I just actually, so like you said, I work at the ISU Foundation, doing fundraising for the university, like the whole university, not athletics, not wrestling, everything else. But like, there's always times where you have those pieces of, athletics and wrestling coming through. So it's really been fun for me in terms of like growing a different skill set that I don't think I truly understood the importance of and the value of. I know I've always been as I've reflected, I've always been a beneficiary of, fundraising and things like that, whether it was, raising money to go to Fargo as a kid with Team Iowa, or just, like the Cyclone Wrestling Club and Sunkissed and Team USA, as a wrestling athlete. It's been really cool to understand that other side of it, but I think more importantly to add essentially like value to myself in terms of as I grow out of being a competitor and going to like things like administration and coaching and stuff like that. So it's really good. It's really fun. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning about Iowa State in a different way. I've always loved Iowa State for my own, own reasons, but now I'm getting to learn about Iowa State from people's different perspectives, whether that's someone that's in engineering or, ag and life sciences. So it's been really cool to learn why other people love Iowa State outside of my initial love, which was wrestling and athletics. And so I'm very appreciative of the opportunity I have at the foundation right now, because I know the skills and the foundation, no pun intended, that I'm building is super positive for me.
How did you realize that was kind of the next step for you as you transitioned out of competing?
I actually got a call from Ryan McGuire, who's the senior associate athletic director at Iowa State for development. And I always had a good relationship with him while I was in college and went on some donor visits with him and discussed stuff with him. And then Frank Nogel also had a really good relationship with them both. And I had an associate position in student athlete and letter winner engagement with underneath Lindsay Long. And when that position was coming to a close, I started looking at different opportunities, one on campus. And then Ryan reached out and was like, hey, like, you want to sit down? And so me, Ryan, and Nathan Johnson sat down, and he was like, there's some positions over at the foundation. We feel like you might possess the ability, to do this job and do it well. And he kind of like nudged me, and I think I was pretty apprehensive, like initially, again, just not really understanding the importance and the value of fundraising. But now being in it for about 18 months, it's given me a really good perspective, because the coolest thing that I think I got to do was my sophomore year. I was on a scholarship, like an in-state scholarship that was put together by a donor. And once I got the job at the foundation, I got to reach out to that person and have a conversation. Like, even though I never met this person prior, but like I got to reach out to him, have a conversation, visit with this person. And I think they got to understand that what they did for me made a huge impact. And then I got to understand that the way that I like carry myself, and do things makes a donor, feel appreciated for their support. So it was like a real cool full circle moment for me. And I think I'm gonna carry that with me for the rest of my life for sure. So that's kind of how that came about. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then are you still doing ESPN Plus?
Yeah. So I'm still commentating. I mean, I got bumped for the Iowa State duel for
Placed with Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah, with Jordan. He treated me to dinner the night before, so I'll forgive him.
Nice of him.
But yeah, so I'm gonna be doing the commentary for January and February. That's already on the schedule and stuff. So I'm excited to keep doing that. My hope is that I can continue to build that skill set out. I would love an opportunity to commentate the NCAAs this year, or a conference championship, especially with the NCAAs being in Kansas City. I think that's going to be a really good time, and especially if you're a Iowa State fan, I think the opportunity to make that, what we've come to know of like basketball terms as Hilton South, I think that's a beautiful opportunity for Iowa State, the wrestlers, the fans, and just the community. So I'm excited about that.
Well, it's an easy drive. It's an easy 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the, 6.5, 7 hours it is to Tulsa.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Tulsa's longer than that, I think. That was 8 hours when I went down there to cover a basketball tournament. That was a brutal drive. But, yeah, like Kyven said, the Kansas City fans are already used to it. Like, they go down there every March anyway. Go down there a second time in March and watch wrestling. I've said this multiple times. The NCAA wrestling tournament is the best event I have ever covered in my life. I've covered New Year's Six bowl games, NCAA basketball tournaments, all sorts of different things. The NCAA wrestling championships are unmatched in terms of atmosphere. So if you're a fan, even just a general sports fan, and you have a second weekend off in March, go down there, watch wrestling. You will not regret it.
And if you don't have it off, take it off and do the right thing.
Yes,
So no, it's. I was talking to Cody Goodwin about it because just like last week, 'cause I was just reaching out to him to say hello. And he's covering Alabama football now.
Yep.
And he was like, it'll be interesting, man. Like, I've never experienced anything like Friday night at the NCAA tournament, like the blood round. And having been someone that competed in the blood round twice, and like I got over that hump, but like seeing the heartbreak that comes with it, the emotion, like the high level of energy, and then the heartbreak type of energy. It's like, yo, like it like gives me like little like goosebumps, like because you see some of your best friends like have a dream like just ripped out of their hands, but then in the same way, some of your best friends are ripping other people's dreams out, and so the emotion and energy that's gonna be in is that the Sprint? Is that the Sprint Center or is it
T-Mobile
now?
Yeah. The T-Mobile Center is gonna be crazy. And then I just think how Kansas City is laid out with their public transportation, the power and light and everything. I think it's going to be a really awesome event for wrestling in general. So
yeah, it will be.
It's definitely going to give people way more to do than they had to do last season in Tulsa, because I love Tulsa. Don't get me wrong. I actually do really enjoy going down for Big 12s, but that's a lot of people for small, like that downtown area. And there just wasn't a lot to go to, like a lot of restaurants or a lot of places to go to in between sessions or like after the day. So yeah, it will be really exciting. I'm excited to go. I'll definitely be there. So Ben.
Yep, I will be there too.
Okay.
Nope, I will be there. Me and my dad are going to come down. So
Sweet.
excited for that.
it'll be a good time.
Yep.
From when you were an athlete, because Blood Round, Cody, ironically, and Ben for I think 2 years consistently told me that was going to be like the most intense experience. It's the best part of the weekend. And it was. Once I got to experience it in March, it was my first time there, and it was everything and more that they had described. Like it definitely was like the energy was different, the crowd was different, covering it was just really intense. Thinking back, like you said, you were in it twice. For you as an athlete, when you were on the floor, when you were taking the mat did it feel different? Did the room feel different?
Honestly, the 2 years I was part of the blood round were like a blur for me. With the year one in 2013, being in Des Moines, Wells Fargo, which I consider like one of my favorite arena in the world, just because some of the memories and moments I've had in it. I don't remember it. Like it was just like I was in probably like a daze, I guess you would say, in a way. And so I don't remember that year. I think I wrestled Micah Burak.
Okay.
In 2013, I was losing. I had to get a takedown late and figured out a way to score. So I think I won 4-3. And then let's see, my junior year. Yeah, I don't even remember who I wrestled.
Yeah.
I don't, like, because I lost in the quarterfinals to Scott Schiller. So then that next match is going to be blood round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I wrestled Maryland, Christian Bowley from Maryland.
Okay.
And honestly, my head was so like mentally like heartbroken.
Yeah.
Like before that match, that I honestly didn't know like what that was gonna look like. But I remember going out there and like feeling how like he grabbed me, or like he grabbed me, but he didn't like grab me. Like I don't know if you can like put it into words, but like when someone is like looking to like fight, like I want this more than you. And the where my head was my junior year after losing in the quarterfinals, I don't think I was in that frame of mind anymore. That I was really like locked into fighting. And when I went out into the match and he grabbed me, he didn't grab me like he was trying to fight. And I feel like in that situation, I probably just had a little bit more fight than him. And so I was just like, oh, okay. And then you get your emotional cues back.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, like I was overreacting. Cause like, I feel like I was ready. Like if he would have came out and just like clubbed me across my head, I'd just been like, yeah, I'm not doing this right now. Like just would have emotionally got hijacked, and just my mind would have kind of like floated away and just been like, I'm in disarray right now. Like I came here to win a national title. I can't get this. I'm trying. I want my mind to pull me back in. But like those are the things that I feel like maybe people that haven't competed in it, and even people that do, like I think you tend to forget what those feelings are that you're trying to manage, and you probably don't usually have time to like manage those feelings, like and grieve from what is like a lost dream, So, yeah, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that to my senior year. Like, I was so thrilled. Like, I was like, I got 5 matches. Anything over that, I don't know what to tell you. Like, so, I was fortunate. I feel like I put myself in position, like just through the work. But you never know how those things are gonna go. You don't know if you get tweaked, whatever happens. But I feel like now that I have gotten farther away from the tournament in terms of like competing and just like trying to watch it as a fan, like I can see guys that are dealing with like that piece of it. And I think that's why people say like once you wrestle, things in life are easier, because you have an understanding of like that immediate heartbreak, having a dream ripped out that you've had for, 10, 15 years. And you've been watching this tournament for, the last 8 years, and the last 4 years you've been in person, seeing it, and you're like, all right, this is my last shot. I want to do this. And then it not happening and having to recalibrate it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. And so I give kudos to anybody that can lose first round and battle their way all the way back, or lose in the quarterfinals and then have to recalibrate and get ready for that blood round match. I got a lot of respect for anybody who competes in that tournament.
Yeah, I immediately think of David Carr, because that was a first round loss, right, against that Oregon State kid.
Second round
loss, and he wrestles all the way back to get third.
Yeah,
it would have been. I don't know I did not expect it because David Carr is obviously an incredible competitor and his mind is right a lot. But I would not have blamed him if he didn't come back and compete the way we expect him to, because like you said, the dream gets ripped out. And how does he handle that? He handled it as well as you could have, like I said, wrestled back to get third. But that's the first thing I think of when you say that. It's just like, yeah, David Carr, man, we obviously know him and respect him for winning national championship, going toe-to-toe with Keegan O'Toole and things like that. But when he wrestled back to get third, that's like, all right, he's a different kind of guy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the amount of, I would say, like, heart and toughness you have to possess to do that means a lot. And I don't know how often you get to see it from someone, especially the year after you win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you won, and then you're supposed to come back and do that. Kudos, that's all you can say right there. It's like, it's kudos. So yeah. Had to be hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Dresser always says, the toughest guys wrestle for third, just because of, like you've said, the mental toughness it takes to wrestle your way all the way through there is definitely tough. So
yeah, that was something my dad used to share with me. He's like, the toughest guys in the bracket come back and get third. I'm like, well, I'm not really trying to be tough, bro. I'm trying to win. So it is what it is. But yeah, like, I mean, you think about, like, you look at guys that have won a national title and then come back to get third after losing. The list isn't probably too high. Mm-hmm. I bet there's less guys that have won a national title maybe the year prior. I'd love to get a stat on that, to then come back the next year, lose, and come back and get third. It's probably not super high. Did Gabe Dean do it that one year he lost? No, because he lost to Bo Nickel in the finals. Like Derek, he won in 2013 and 2014. I think he took fifth. Matt McDonough didn't place as a senior. But, there's so many moving pieces to that, whether it's the injuries.
Mm-hmm. Spencer Lee's recent. I mean.
Right, yeah. The injuries, all those things, play into that. Coaching, staff, all the support, because even now, just with social media management and how these young people are, they're superstars, they have a massive followings and things like that. All that plays into it, and you're trying to manage it and be prepared for that moment of success, but not have it engulf you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot. I'd love to. I'm gonna have to look that up and see what people have come back and done that, because I think it's a pretty incredible feat for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a short list for sure.
yeah, I feel like wrestling consistently changes year over year, just from, like you said, the social media aspect. I mean, now we live in an NIL world. I mean, just even from when you were competing, how do you think you would handle being a freshman today, walking into being a wrestler for Iowa State? How have you seen the sport really evolve? And then how do you think you would do as a freshman today?
I think I would struggle. I truly believe that I would have struggled, because I struggled regardless. I think, again, a lot of it comes down to health and things like that. I wasn't healthy coming into college. I also was 17 years old, when I got to college, right? Yeah. And so I think when you look at ages, these young people are also coming into college, a little bit older,
Mm-hmm.
18, 19 as, freshmen, some of them a little bit older than that. But I think personally, me, I didn't really start hitting a maturity stride until, 2021. And so I think I would have struggled with the management of all those things. And then just, I feel like there's more business savviness to it. You have to either expect, someone to, if it's NIL, pay you what they believe you're worth, and do you take the first offer? You guys had jobs right out of college, right? Mm-hmm. When they came to you with the offer for the job, did you take the first offer, or did you negotiate?
Yeah.
That's what these kids have to do now,
Yep.
And if their parents don't have that type of savviness and that business awareness, then do they really get what they're worth, Mm-hmm. Or is it someone that knows what they're talking about, that's been doing it for whatever, amount of time. And they're like, like we'll give you this, So it's an interesting system. It's an interesting system for sure. But I know I would have struggled, especially given the circumstances with losing my, like dad and stuff. Like, I think I would have struggled probably a lot more. I think because my dad was a college coach, I would have had a certain level of advantage because he knew, things that happened in that realm. But college wrestling is changing every single year. So him, by the time I got there, it was 13 years. He wanted me to go through a recruiting process. I felt like I knew where I wanted to go, so I didn't want to go through the process. I didn't want to, waste people's time and tell them like, oh yeah, I'm interested when I know I'm not. But is that part of business?
Right.
Like if I tell you I love you and I want to be here with you, do you have to give me a full ride when I'm worth a full ride? Right. But the business side of it says, well, he didn't negotiate a full ride. He accepted a 50% scholarship. It's like, those are things you got to think about that I don't think I was prepared to at, 17, 18, 19, even 20, 22 years old. I don't think I was in that space.
Yeah.
And the only way you get there, I think, is through trials and tribulation or having someone that has been there to talk you through it, So
experience is the name of the game. Either, like you said, you have to have it or someone that you know and trust has to have that experience. But if that experience doesn't exist, you're probably going to get taken advantage of to some degree.
Yeah.
So, unfortunate situation, but it is also reality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I would have struggled, period. But I think I'm a fighter, so I would think I would have tried to figure it out as much as I can and tried to find resources. There's also like an abundance of resources out there too. So you can do a good amount of research and stuff and learn things.
Yep, for sure.
Well, you made me think of Bo Bassett. Is that how you say his last name?
I think so.
That caused a whole discourse of like what recruiting looks like these days, right? Because he put out the graphic with
every team,
just about every team in the country, which is, to each their own. I was never an athlete that was recruited, so I don't know what it feels like, but I just remember Coach St. John and I had so many conversations about how recruiting alone is so different because social media is so huge now in recruiting these kids to come to your programs. And now NIL makes me think of the Austin Gomez discussion. This started, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because of his age. And then it's like, well, you asked about us getting offers out of college. That makes me think of Austin. Austin's not just sticking around to go to class and be a student. Like, he's being offered money. Like, there's true, real money here on the line. So it's just like everything has evolved so much, even from when I started covering wrestling. It is not the same at all. So,
what was your first year covering wrestling?
It would have been 2018, Dresser's first season. Okay. I started the same time.
So 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 2017, 18.
I was 15, 16.
Okay, got you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, that's when Austin Gomez started, right? He was like a freshman?
He was being recruited 15, 16. I'm pretty sure. No, was I 14, 15? I was 14, 15 because I was the year before. Kanan Storr and Ian Park were getting recruited when I started.
Okay.
Earl Hall was a junior, and then he got his second year. He thought he was a senior, and then he got his second year.
Yeah.
So his first senior year was my first year.
Okay.
Yep. So I think
that was 15, 16.
That was 15, 16?
Yeah, 15, 16.
Yep.
Because then he was 16, 17. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. I just saw Earl this weekend. He's doing good.
Good. Yeah, he's still in Northern Colorado, right?
Yeah, Northern Colorado. Right. He was warming up and coaching Andrew Alirez. That dude's a savage.
That guy is doing things.
Yeah. He won the senior nationals this weekend. So yeah, him and Troy. So those are Earl obviously was a teammate and Troy was one of my coaches. So yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy how much time has gone.
I know.
You can't even remember when you started covering wrestling.
I
know. Well, on that topic, I guess time has flown. I mean, you're still around the team. You're more of a mentor, right? You're in there helping when you can. has that been like? Is from your perspective, just as an individual, what is it like transitioning into that kind of like coaching perspective, and really how has it been like to be around this team specifically this season?
What's it like? It's different. I think so I went to the U.S. Olympic Trials Qualifier Senior Nationals in Fort Worth this weekend to coach two of the Cyclone Regional Training Center guys, Sam Schuyler and Duncan Lee. And then while we were there, we connected with Marcus Coleman, who's competing as well. And so like I never had a eagerness to like coach. Like I always loved doing like clinics and being around the sport and teaching the sport, but I never had like an eagerness to coach. And the more that I'm getting, and I think part of that was because coaching while competing is just like, it's ridiculously hard. Like I don't know many people that can do it, right? And so like now when I'm around like the team, it feels more natural because I'm not as focused on myself, you know? So I was selfish. I am selfish. I know like that's part of just me and knowing what I've had to do to essentially like be successful. Like I've always leaned on support of, you know, my parents or my training partners. And so like being around the team now in the capacity that I do get to be around them, you know, sometimes it's cool because you get to see young men develop and grow and, you know, ask questions, and you just try to be essentially like a positive voice of like encouragement, like, hey man, like go make the most of it. Like it won't be here for forever. And sometimes it'll be shorter than you think it will be. And you should want to just take advantage of it as much as you can. So the team is like, it's fun. Like they seem like I've known Yonger obviously since 2019 when we wrestled in Cuba, and like watching his develop like folk style wise, just like even just his ability to come over here and do everything that's been necessary to work towards a degree. You know, like those are the things like I'm like, if at 19 years old, Kyven, you get dropped in the middle of Cuba and they're like, all right, you're going to wrestle and I need you to learn freestyle. You've never wrestled freestyle. And I need you to beat the best people in the country at it. I don't know if I can do it. You know what I mean? Like those are like the that's what he was up against. And to watch him continuously show an innate amount of like mental toughness, even when maybe the results that you were experiencing from a fan perspective weren't the ones that you wanted, like he was still doing the things that were necessary for him to grow, right? And I think now that he's at what would be like more of a natural weight, because when we wrestled in 2019, it was at 214 pounds, you know? And then he was cutting that weight down to 197. Like that takes a lot out of you, you know? And I think Younger's probably like 2 inches taller than me, you know? And so like, it's like, that's a lot to do. And now that he's at a more, I think, natural weight class, and then you guys get to interview him and talk with him, you know, on media days and stuff like that. But you have seen someone learn, you know, English and speak it to a level like he can have a conversation with anyone. And you've seen just the way that he's grown confidence-wise. And I think it's always been in him, but like continuing to just speak to that inner champion, I think has been really fun. You know, like even watching David grow from when he came on his visit in 2018, it's been cool, you know, watching him, you know, go do camps and clinics, and he's, you know, done some pop-up things around, you know, the Story County area, for different people that he's had relationship with to, you know, inspire, you know, kids. But it's been really cool to see all the pieces come together for what Iowa State Wrestling is doing right now, the fan support, the administrative support, all those things has been really cool.
I definitely think the interest is up. I know, at least from Ben and I's perspective, even just with the podcast itself, I feel like people are way more engaging. People are constantly asking us things. I don't know how many people reached out to me during the Cyhawk to say this was their first time going to a wrestling duel. So it is pretty cool. Interest is definitely there. And I think guys like Younger and guys like David definitely have a lot to do with it. So.
Absolutely.
What does it feel like to wrestle Younger these days?
Terrible. Terrible. All right. No, it's just like so when we wrestled in 2019, it was a 6-6 match. I lost to him on criteria. And so like now you take that, you take a retired, 2 years removed Kyven, and you're like, all right, go wrestle Younger. Like, what? Like, it's not, and he has a great motor. He has an array of different skills and stuff. So it's like, but when I get to do it, for me, it's like, it's therapeutic because it's like I get to do wrestling, right? And I think towards like the end of my career and stuff, like dealing with injuries and things like that, it was like injuries, personal life, all these things, like everything's weighing on you. And I don't know if I really got to experience the gratitude that I should have, like in those moments. And so like now when I do get to go in and wrestle, like exhausted, tired, whatever, like I'm like, if I get to wrestle Younger, I'm smiling like, man, this is fun. And this dude's like, he's pretty incredible. Like, and it's fun because it's going to be really fun to see what he's able to create for himself, wrestling wise, after wrestling, whether he decides to keep competing, if he gets American citizenship, for LA 2028, if he decides to go MMA, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be really incredible to see where he's at, 8 years after, he's done with college wrestling, and see what he's done for himself. And I know he's a person that cares about people a lot. So when that happens, you're going to see like is it snowball effect of all the other things that he's going to do with who he becomes, whether that's coaching, MMA, whatever it is that he chooses. That's an awesome person to be around.
Absolutely. I hope as one of the leaders of the Yonger Bastida fan club, I hope for mine and his sake more than mine, that he is able to compete in the 2028 Olympics out in LA. But you throwing out the MMA idea that wasn't something I necessarily considered. And it's like, okay, yeah, he could probably do some damage there, but
there's no probably.
Yeah.
Like if he wants to go 205, if he wants to go heavyweight, whatever he decides he's going to do, he's the type of person, like mentally, if he decides he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So that will be like really, really funny if he does decide to go that route. I'm pretty sure like he grew up like boxing in Cuba, like, cause they did everything, like they did every single sport, like soccer, track, boxing, wrestling. And then he just decided he was going to, put the energy and time into wrestling. So, I think he has some some initial desire to, explore that. And so I think it'll be fun when that happens. And then you think about like the Anthony Echemendia and that relationship, Coach Fernando.
Yes.
And Nando, like there's a lot of like relationships there. But Coach Fernando I think he's been a big catalyst too for Younger's growth and helping him, navigate things and stuff in his family. So there's a lot of people that I call in the world of, success, the unseens, whether that's in the Iowa State Athletic Department or the foundation. You have your frontline people always, right? Like you have your frontline people, like right now on your guys' podcast, Reaction Time, you two are the frontline people, but there's people behind the scenes that, make things happen and make sure things are in order so that you guys can do what you need to do so that there's a crisp product put out.
Yep, absolutely. Not to get too ahead of ourselves with Younger and his future career, what do you think his ceiling is for this year? Because so to me, from my perspective, obviously he's ranked number 3 right now. beat Lucas Davison, got Wyatt Hendrickson ranked ahead of him, got Greg Kirkfleet ranked ahead of him.
Right.
To me, and I want to hear your perspective on this, Greg and Yonger are essentially the same athlete, just one was born in America and one was born in Cuba. So Greg has more of that folk style background. I think if Yonger had been born in America and had more of that folk style background, I don't know if I see a difference between those two guys. What's your take on that?
I've gotten to wrestle both of them, and I would say I'm relatively close with both of them. I've known Yonger since he was, I think, 18 or 19 in 2019, and then I've known Greg since he was probably like 15. And Greg's come out to, Ames and stuff to train with me, and we had a really solid relationship. So I don't know if there's a heavy difference in terms of their like athletic abilities and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to see like what's gonna happen. I really hope we get that matchup.
Me too.
As a fan, Enoch Francois would be proud of me. As a fan, that is the match I would like to see. Is it March 24th?
I
Is it
think
March
so,
24th?
yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Saturday, March 24th in Kansas City. I would like that match to be the match that would end the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
And I just think that would be fun because I think if you see both of those guys put it out there, I think you get to see like a new era of heavyweights, like really going after each other, really scrapping, like some like Muhammad Ali, George Foreman type type energy, because I think they both possess a lot of abilities. And then, I mean, 2 weeks before that, I would want to see, Wyatt and Yonger in the Big 12, finals, and I'd like to see Davison and Greg in the Big Tens, and so I think outside of Wyatt, I have like a tie to all of them because KJ's at Michigan, so I'm really just interested as a fan to watch it all play out because they just that whole upper echelon, possesses a lot of ability, and then you got guys like that are going to make it hard for him, like Colton Schultz, and there's a few
Zach
more.
Elam.
Yeah, Elam, yes, and then you got him working out with the senior nationals champ and Don Bradley, who just made his 4th Olympic team trials,
which is ridiculous.
It's like
How is
crazy.
he still wrestling?
That's what I'm saying. Like, because we were here in the the Cyclone Wrestling Club together, and he was one of my favorite training partners ever. Because I couldn't just do like I can't. You're not running a blast double through Don Bradley, so you're gonna have to figure something out, And so it's like there's a whole lot of ties now. Like I'm in a place where like I have a whole lot of ties to a lot of different places. But as a fan, I'm really interested in watching it all play out. But it's gonna be, I think, one of the best NCAA tournaments in a while, just because I think there's gonna be a lot of, like I said, energy in the building and a lot of different things happening. So
yeah, I'm really excited in the direction that heavyweight is moving with some of these more high-scoring guys who are going to put it out there. Even a guy like Wyatt Hendrickson, who's more traditional heavyweight size, he'll put up a lot of points. It'll be a lot of mat wrestling, but he'll put up points. So I like the direction that heavyweight's moving right now.
Absolutely. I just like, my thing is like I hope everybody is healthy.
Yes,
so that they can put out their like best product, and in that situation, may the person that is prepared the best and executes their game plan win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of health, there was some controversy this recent dual meet against Cornell. Their coach put out an email afterwards saying that if they would have wrestled Iowa State first in the collegiate duels, the full lineup would have been out, but there was unfortunately a series of injuries. He said that happened afterward that made it so that they didn't wrestle their full A team. What are your thoughts on guys potentially ducking, or maybe they are a little bit banged up so they decide not to wrestle a match?
I think from a coaching perspective, I'm going to do if I'm a coach, I'm going to do what I feel like is best, for my guys, and understanding where they're at mentally, emotionally. I'm going to challenge them. If I feel like I have a kid that is ducking, we're going to have a different conversation. yeah, and it's probably like a super uncomfortable conversation, like as a coach. But I think from what I've seen from, Mike Gray in the past is that I don't think he does that, but the proof is in the pudding, right? And so I've never seen him like that. It's not like you saw, Yanni sit out a bunch of matches, whatever. Like, so it's one of those things where as a coach, I'm going to do what is absolutely best for the young, men or women in my program. And then I'll take whatever, flag or spitballs you guys, media or whatever wants to throw at me. As a fan, as a fan, I would be like, oh man, I have questions.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have questions. Like as a fan, I have questions. And it's like, well, why isn't he wrestling? Like, why did you wrestle him in this match when you know that there was a higher level, maybe match that would test him, press him a little bit more? Like I have questions in that regards. But it's not your job that's on the line at the end of the day. Like as a coach, I'm gonna do what I need to do because guess what's gonna decide if I keep my job, if they win or not.
Yep.
So I could care less.
Yeah.
So like that's just where I'm at. Like if me sitting a kid out in December gives them the best opportunity to win a national title and keep my job and keep food on my table and make sure my daughter is fed, I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
Because that's what's been created. That's a system and situation that's been created. You guys, fans don't care. Administration doesn't care if I'm not winning. So do you want me to win at the Journeyman Duels or do you want me to win in March? And we've made it as a sport, I think a one size March.
Yep.
The 3 days in March matter more than whatever happens before that. So if I'm 15-15 going into the NCAA tournament and I get hot, you're like, he's a national champ. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how he did all season. If I have as a coach, if I have a 13-2 dual record and then place 20th at nationals because my guys don't peak or underperform, but they've been peaking all year and you guys been enjoying watching them, doesn't matter. And so like, it's delicate in like the art and science blend of it all. And knowing like what guy needs what. Does this guy need to run extra sprint laps? Does this guy need to halfway through practice? I'm watching eye testing this kid and he's having like one of those practices where I'm like, hey, I need you to sit down. Like there's a art and science blend that I don't know that many coaches have like found the perfect ingredients for it. And so yeah, there's like two perspectives from me, because like I would say as a senior, right, I'm wrestling, I'm 15-0, and I go to the Southern Scuffle. So we wrestle Cliff Keen, I win Cliff Keen, I'm feeling on top of the world, I'm undefeated, feeling great. We go to Southern Scuffle, get 70th win, and in the second round, I'm just like, hit a wall, whatever. I lose to a guy named Spencer Johnson. He's a backup for Nebraska. I lose, 5-3 or whatever. Ranked number 1 in the country. This guy is battling for a starting spot at Nebraska. Had beaten him previously a few different times. But make weight the next morning. I'm emotionally, I think more than anything, banged up. And my shoulder does hurt. And I'm still dealing with the shoulder stuff to this day, but I'm like, I don't have it, coach. Like, I don't have it. I don't have it today. Like, and I know, like, I'm physically, mentally not there. And we pull out the tournament, right? Medical pull out the tournament. And there was like some more conversations, some hard ones, like some yelling and some feelings hurt on my end, and probably with the coaching staff. But then is that story ever talked about? No. Why? because what happened the rest of the 15 matches that I wrestled, right? And so it's like, oh, I wonder who Kyven lost to that year. No one knows.
I had no
right?
idea.
You know what I mean? And so it's because the product that came after that, so it's 15, one loss, 15. It's like, hey, you gave yourself what you need to do to put yourself in the right mind frame. And there was like some hard conversations with the coaching staff after that. I remember being frustrated with KJ coming back from that tournament and the rest of the staff. I think I probably didn't talk to them for a little bit. But because I think there was a question about like, you know, toughness and mental like focus and ability to, you know, do those things. But I just know now from a more like removed and reflective standpoint, they were just doing their best to make the, you know, like the right decision. And so coaches have to deal with a lot.
Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah,
Coaches
definitely.
they have to manage a lot. And it's different for every single person because they're all coming from different systems. Like one kid's motivation for wanting to be the best is different than another kid's motivation. And you have to, like I said, blend and have the right ingredients for all that. So I don't envy the job that coaches have to do, especially to win and put yourself in position when the expectation is win. And anything less than that is you know, is gonna have you, you know, in unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I was
So
gonna say.
my thoughts on that come obviously from a purely fan perspective. I don't love it. I think it's highly suspect. Maybe they were hurt. Maybe it was all coincidental and they all did get hurt, all four of them. But I think it's pretty coincidental that all four of them were the only guys that were ranked higher than the Iowa State guys. So they're protecting their seeds. From my perspective, that's what I see.
Yeah, I got you.
So I think that's pretty highly suspect. And there's no good way to do it that I've thought of. But how do we make dual meets matter a little bit more? Because like you said, March is really the only thing that matters. That's the only thing we care about. Jackie and I talked about March in October.
Yeah.
So like, it's what it is.
I feel like you got to make it like an in-season tournament.
You do.
Like the NBA, right?
Yep.
Like, but you got to put incentives on it. Like, yo, like if I come out here and I beat David again or whatever, you know, like happens, I'm wrestling for this $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go get a takedown.
Yeah. Or maybe you're guaranteed a top 2 seed at NCAAs. Or,
Wow.
I mean, that'd probably happen anyway, but like, I'd like to see some sort of, maybe that's not a good idea.
Bread.
Yes.
Man zealot.
I think some rules have to change in the NCAA for that to happen. I think NIL has obviously done some things for athletes in that respect, but I don't think tournaments are allowed to pay athletes yet. I think that's probably going to change here in the next couple of years.
You don't think like the journeyman could do that? Like side it in that, like if you win this, it's an NIL deal, right? Like you get an NIL
They
deal
might
for
be
that.
able to. I don't know.
Well, it makes
might
me
have to
think
talk
of
to a
like
lawyer.
I was going to say, it makes me think of, didn't they get paid to do the All-Star Classic? What was it?
Yeah,
Flow
they
Wrestling
did.
did it.
Yeah.
They got paid to do that.
Well, I think you can't get paid if it's based on success or like performance. Okay. So you
So
can pay them
everyone
to
at
compete,
Journeyman are
but you
the
can't
all-
pay them if they win. If that makes sense.
Oh, okay. I
Got
see
it.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
But compete. So could you get paid to compete?
It sounds like it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I think that's like if you want this product, then
Yeah.
that's where it's going. That's what NIL
It is.
opened
It
up.
absolutely
Yeah.
is going there. It's going there for
Yeah,
sure. And I
it's
think we
definitely
will
gonna
probably
do
start
that.
seeing
Yeah.
rewards if we do an in-season tournament for winning. Because I do think that's all going to change here in the next couple of years.
Like, oh, I can go win
There's-
this and have my rest of the year scholarship taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have I wrestled 30 matches every single year though. But like other than like my first year, so I probably would have got, 5 more.
Yeah. Yeah. So my whole thing is I just like to see some incentive to make dual meets more important and to make these things more important just so we do see the best product on the mat. Because like one example that I gave on Twitter the other day was the Iowa State dual meet on ESPN, I think was a huge success. You had a packed Hilton. Iowa clearly pulled out all the stops to try to win that, right? They threw out Gabe Arnold. They threw out Patrick Kennedy. They did all of these things to win and it made for an incredible product.
Yeah.
And then we get things like Cornell, and maybe those guys were hurt. Again, I don't know. Not in that room. I don't know Mike Gray. Maybe they were hurt. But we get things like Cornell where we don't get the best product. And that's the part that just gets me. It's like we seem to make this growth to ESPN. Like, yes, we're doing this great thing. And we take a couple steps back of, all right, we're throwing out half a B team.
Right.
So just from a fan and media perspective, I'd like somehow, maybe it's a financial incentive, to get these dual meets some more, all right, A team versus A team. Let's get these top 5 teams, top 10 teams, whatever they were. Let's get them wrestling A team versus A team.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, as a fan, I would love to see that. As a fan, I would absolutely love to see that.
yeah. Yep.
I hate to say it, but I echo everything you just said. The more I sat and like analyzed it of like, well, should we be mad because coach didn't let us know that guys were hurt earlier? Because that's kind of the route I took at first. Well, why didn't you share the whole, these guys are injured? And then that just opens a can of worms of, we constantly have this conversation about coaches and the transparency about injuries on their teams. And I don't want to get into that at this point. But that was kind of where my head went. And then the more Ben and I sat here and talked about it earlier, the more I think it comes down to there has to be a change in March. And like you guys just discussed, how do we make it so that the rest of the season matters just as much as March does? So that's kind of...
It doesn't even have to matter just as much. Just matter more. Just
Right.
so there's some reason to throw out an A team versus an A team.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I think about it from a perspective of like, you know, the college football playoff. Like every single game mattered to them because if they didn't do so, if that means cutting down the field
Yeah.
of the NCAA championships, I mean, I think that sucks, right? Like it sucks like some kid that maybe has earned that opportunity in the past wouldn't get it now, you know, like, but you have to make it so, you know, like every single piece of this matters.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like that bad loss is going to get you, you know, like going into the NCAA tournament, my junior year, I'm 25-2. My 2 losses are to Scott Schiller, and he was ranked number 2 and number 1 at the time I lost to him. I avenged the loss in the last dual meet of the season, right? So if he would have set out, okay, but I avenged the loss in the last dual meet of the season, I win my conference championships. He doesn't, and I get seeded 4th or 5th. I'm like, yo, what? Now, what I do know is the best guy is going to win. I clearly mentally wasn't prepared to win that year as a junior. And so regardless of ducking, whatever, the best guy is gonna win when it comes down to it 9 times out of 10 if you wrestle that weekend. And so whether you don't put yourself out there in the season, then you're not gonna be prepared. You're not gonna be prepared because you're not battle tested. And so I respect the coaches that, you know, make sure their guys are battle tested. But yeah, I think the thing that's been opened up with NIL and things like that, it's like you just have to make it, you know, fiscally have to hear something, you know, and that's just the way of the world now. You know, like these kids are managing like, oh, like if I go here, I'm gonna get $5,000. If I go here, I'm gonna get 15. Hey, coach, you know, and like a kid has to be, it's like, okay, does this 15 mean I'm gonna have less of this? Like, do the expectations outweigh the commitment? Right now, you guys want these kids essentially to commit, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yep. No, it's a different situation. And just to be very clear, that situation with NIL happens every day to everyone else all the time. It's a new thing for student athletes now.
Yeah.
And it's a new thing for fans to wrap their head around like, oh my gosh, these kids are making these decisions. And some people are very mad about that.
Yeah.
Right.
I am not. I think it's great for student athletes. It obviously provides some complications, but it's a free market. Let's make sure it's a free market for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my thoughts on that.
I got you.
It's the wild, wild west.
It is.
It's the way I see it. And I think the schools are going to get involved and they're going to regulate it somehow.
Yeah, NCAA is going to try to do something,
Yep.
I'm sure. We'll see how much longer the NCAA exists, but that's a different podcast. So
I'll give you guys, we'll wrap it up. We'll circle back. Kyven, give us, I don't know if I want to say like, give us a prediction of like, you don't have to give like, they're going to finish this placing at the NCAAs, but like, give us your prediction of how you see this second semester as we head into the ASU duel. What are your expectations for Iowa State?
my expectations is to see young men go out there and compete with full effort, and full heart, like make the adjustments to the ebbs and flows. Like I think one maybe glaring thing that happened yesterday is like Evan Frost, right? Like gets beat pretty handily, I guess, in the first period. Ebbs and flows. It is what it is. I think that's something that could be corrected, and he can learn to manage that. But you're young. You're a second year, student athlete, and you're going to have situations where you're like, man, like what just happened right there? Like that wasn't a true indicator of, I don't believe who he is. Now I believe the young man that he wrestled, Nazir Bailey, is a hard worker, has a ton of talent, and is a go-getter, and so I just think you want to see 10 guys that are in the lineup go out there and compete with pride, for, like Iowa State, for themselves, their families. And I think if they do that, they're going to put themselves in a really good position to perform and achieve a lot of different things. I think when you start putting, numbers on it, like, 8 guys are going to All-American or whatever, I think that's dangerous, because now I'm going to be measured on that, right? Like I'm going to be measured on that if I'm a coach, and from the standpoint of, if that doesn't get hit, now these guys underperform. Now, internally, we're probably going to have a different conversation. All 10 of us are All-American. Like, internally, that's what I'm talking to my guys about. And in a perfect world, I want 10 guys to be NCAA champs, and that's what I would want in the lineup for those guys internally to believe, like, hey, I'm going to be an NCAA champ. I'm competing, and I'm practicing, and I'm doing all these things to be an NCAA champ and give myself that opportunity. But I think media-wise, you have a conversation like, hey, if these guys compete and put a great deal of effort out there, and they continue to train with the intensity and the focus, like hyper focus that we've seen this year thus far, then I think they'll be pleased. And I think that's the most important thing, is like they'll be pleased with what they do. And I think with that, the coaches, the administration, the fan base, and the nation will get to see some really good wrestling and some high level stuff. It's like if they show up and do what they're supposed to do, I think Iowa State fans will be really, really happy. And on a bad weekend, I think it'll be really sad. But I don't know if scared is the right word, but I would be very hard pressed to put like a specific number out there, because if I say 8, then you got 2 guys looking at you that you have to go in there and see in the locker room or whatever. They're like, well,
why can't we?
Who's the 2?
Yeah.
And like, I'd rather, if I'm gonna do that, I'd rather have that conversation face like, hey, right now, what I'm seeing is that you're not going to achieve this. And now if you have that relationship with someone, it probably hits different. But to say that like now, like, oh yeah, 8. I just think if they perform and continue training how they're training, and a lot of good things the other way luck wise, but they stay healthy, you got a really good opportunity to make a lot of people happy.
Great.
I would say, Ben, your expectations, what are you feeling for the second half?
Second half, I would like to see a little bit more consistency, just from some of the guys. Kyson Terrakina would be one that pops to the front of my mind. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from him. I want to see Anthony Atramendia has shown me a lot. I want to see him continue to show me that. He hasn't had any problems with the consistency. I just want to see it for a full season, because he spent 2 years not on a wrestling mat. So I want to see that. Will Feldkamp's another guy that he pins the guys that are not as good as him. But right now, against some of the top tier competition, he's struggling a little bit. So I'd like to see him get over the hump there a little bit more. David Carr, I want to see keep winning. Yonger Bastida, obviously, I don't want to see another loss from him. He hasn't lost yet. He hasn't lost yet. So I want that to continue. And then, once March rolls around, Give me a handful of All-Americans. Give me a couple guys wrestling in the finals. Give me a couple national champions. I'll be a happy person.
I'm trying to find it. Younger's takedown ratio only went up. It's 52-1.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
So,
and that first takedown, the only takedown was his first shot attempt of the year,
yep.
where he got stuck underneath the guy and got taken down himself. After that, he's been nails. And he's wrestled good guys, too. Let's be very clear about that. He's wrestled a lot of top 10 guys, and they haven't been able to take him down, which we talk about Younger's offense all the time because freestyle, and he's explosive, and it's fun. But his defense is something different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bad dude. Takedowns 52-1, huh?
Yep.
That's nuts.
How many times have you taken him down in the practice room?
I got my lickings one week, but the other weeks,
Came in with a vengeance.
oh man, yeah, yeah. Whew. I'm trying to think about like my senior year, how many takedowns I probably had, and how many I gave up. Huh? That's nuts. 52-1.
And not even halfway through the season. So.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is
awesome.
we have so much season left.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm going to have a better idea of what I want to see from them once I see them wrestle ASU.
Yeah.
I just want to see them in another duel, go and see what lineup we get after what we saw yesterday and then at Cliff Keen. But like you said, consistency is definitely one of them. I think something that I hang on just because of who I am as a person, I try and pay attention a lot to what like emotions they're putting out. And the messaging that I feel like we're getting from the coaches makes me feel more comfortable headed into January than I have maybe in prior seasons where I felt a little iffy on like, what are we going to see from them again? To go back to March, what are we going to see from them? They've always done really well in those duels and consistently performed in them. But then we get to March and you brought that up that people then start to be like, well, they didn't do well in this tournament. Then everyone turns on them, even though they won like every single duel in Hilton. Mm-hmm. So I feel like just the way that like St. John talked to us, the way Metcalf came off, the way Dresser's been, it just makes me feel confident that there's more to these guys that we maybe haven't necessarily seen them in those moments. Like maybe Evan yesterday not going, 3-0, or I'm trying to think of other instances. I'm just hoping that there's certain things that we haven't seen from these guys flip a switch yet, like Will Feldkamp. Mm-hmm. So I think there's just something positive coming out of that room that I didn't necessarily always feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's great energy around the program right now.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of great energy, yeah.
And then they're all young, and I appreciate the balance of guys like Yonger, who's been there, David, who's been there, Kyson's, who's been there, and then you have the mix of Cody Chittum and Will Feldkamp. So...
yeah, the Frost Bros, things like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So, sweet. Any final thoughts, guys?
It was great to have you on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
guys having me.
coming to the studio.
Always love your insight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Sweet. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We will be back probably to preview the Arizona State duel. So keep up with us on Twitter as always. Kyven, you can shout out your handles I'd be surprised if people are listening who don't follow you already, but in case they don't.
Oh, everything is consistent across the board. Gadson Strong on any social media platform. So yeah, tune in if you want an occasional post about something.
There you go.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. And as always, thanks to Fairway.